First chapter Friday. I am sharing the first chapter of When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea by Karen Cushman, published by Alfred Knopf. State of Oregon, summer 1894. On the road. Ms. Broom chucked me right out like I was chewed on chicken bones. That's the last straw, Sally O'Malley, she called as she chucked my coat after me. Goodbye and good riddance. Jumpin' Jiminy, due to an unfortunate incident with the pig and the church ladies, I was out and on my own, and so was the pig. The sun was too strong for a coat, but my red knitted cap stayed put. I took long strides ahead, for there was nothing behind me but angry Miss Broom and her river hotel and mineral spring. Still, where was I going and what for? I had no purpose or destination, no place to belong, no one to depend on, no one to miss or to miss me. Nothing was holding me or calling me anywhere. I was aimless as a falling leaf, alone. But there are worse things than being alone. I knew that for sure. A tiny shiver shook me. Fear, not Sally O'Malley. It was more likely excitement, or maybe too much of the foul-smelling water from Ms. Broom's mineral spring. I just kept walking. Moses and the Israelites wandered the desert for 40 years before they figured out where they were going and why. I reckoned I'd wander on a while and hope it wouldn't take me as long. I ate as I walked, fed by the thimbleberries, huckleberries, and dark blueberries of the sala shrubs that grew in thickets beside the road. My hands turned purple from the berries, and I rubbed them on my face and growled. Beware, I was hungry and ferocious. If only I were purple all the time, so creepy that people would stay away. I hadn't had many good experiences with people in my life, and I tended to keep clear of them. Soon enough, I was bone-weary from the walking, tired as a hound with 10 pups, and, I had to admit, a bit low down from the turn of events. Though it was still light, and the evening lingered mild and sweet, I sought somewhere to sleep. Let's find me a place, I said right out loud, and it was strange to hear a human voice. Far enough from the road that I won't get squashed by a wagon, but not so far that I get lost in the woods. Fir and cedar trees grew as close together as sardines in a can, and so tall I swore I could see angels sitting on the tops, flapping their wings at me. The ground was thick with ferns and brackens, and carpeted in fir needles. I gathered heaps of fir branches and made a pile, wrapped myself in my coat, and settled down with an oof. The ground was still warm, though a little damp, and soft but for lumps of fir cones. It would do. It was dark as the inside of an old boot when I jerked awake. Crickets and katydids chirped. The frogs by the river creaked. Foxes screeched like babies crying, and owls hooted at each other. Unknown critters scrambled and snuffed and snorted. What a rumpus! I jumped to my feet, brushing off the ants and spiders. I hollered, all of you, pipe down and let me sleep. It didn't work, but it didn't matter. Before long, I was asleep again anyway. At dawn, I was woke by a red and black woodpecker, near the size of a butter churn, hammering for his breakfast, and I gave up sleeping. Sweeping leaves, needles, and spiderwebs from my face and clothes, I got to my feet, and having no other choice, relieved myself in the woods. As I stood again, there was a sudden silence, as if all the birds and insects and critters had gone away, leaving only me in an empty world. A funny feeling ran down my spine, and the hair on my arms lifted straight up like prairie grass in spring. Turning my head ever so slightly and slowly, I looked behind me. Oh, criminy! A lion! My heart thumped like a beaver's tail on a riverbank. There was a lion right there in the brush. A lion! No, it was a leopard. No, a cougar. Anyway, it was a cat. A huge cat. Reddish tan. Big-headed, pointy-eared, I stood there like a potted plant, not a muscle moving except for the pounding of my heart, and watched it. The cat looked bigger, much bigger, and more menacing than a house cat. I had to admit it was not a leopard or a cougar, unlikely just a bobcat, but still a wild animal and dangerous. I knew some about facing wild animals, because of the dime novels about the Old West that I found hidden in the garden shed at the orphan home I had lived in before Miss Broom's. Ned Bootline was my favorite author, but it was old Bill Williams, mountain man I recalled now. He once found himself facing a bear. I knew I should do what Bill did, wave my arms, make a lot of noise, and back up slowly. But I couldn't. I was plumb frozen. The big cat didn't move either, just glared at me with his yellow eyes. My skin felt like it was crawling right off my body. Did bobcats attack people? Luckily, I had already emptied my innards that morning, because I would have wet myself right there in fright. It was perfectly quiet in the woods, like all creation was waiting for what would happen next. My stomach clenched, and my heart kept pounding. Would anyone notice I was gone? No longer among the living? Would someone find and bury my bones? Would anyone miss me? I took a deep breath, which rumbled in the silence. Shucks, I wasn't just going to stand there and be eaten. Buck up, Sally O'Malley, I thought, and my limbs unfroze a little. Also my voice. Go away, shoo, shoo. I'd scare the beast away by saying shoo. I'd have laughed if I weren't so dad blame scared. The bobcat still didn't move. Hope you were right, Bill Williams, I thought as I got noisier, waving my arms and shouting, Go away, take off, you miserable varmint. I took to chucking dirt clods and fir cones at the big cat. One hit him square on the nose. He moved then. He opened his mouth, and I swear he was licking his lips, getting ready for Sally O'Malley for breakfast. His teeth shone in a beam of light, and I shook like a line of laundry in a windstorm. Then he opened wider and yawned, flicked his ears a time or two, turned and walked away. Yawned, he had yawned and walked away. Was he saying I was too puny and insignificant to be worth eating? I was altogether mortified. The bobcat was gone, but my hands were shaking. I was on the road just one day and night and already had run smack into a wild animal. Would I survive this journey to who knows where? I clasped my hands together to still them and took one more deep breath. I wasn't going to get all peevish and nervy because of some big dumb cat who didn't have the sense to eat me. Even so, I grabbed my coat and hightailed it out of the woods in case he decided to come back and bring his family. The only way ahead was ahead. I wouldn't go back to Miss Broom. For 3 years, I'd been a hired girl at her hotel outside Molalla, Oregon, ever since I turned 10 and the orphan home sent me away. Miss Broom was stern and stingy and didn't pay me much, but the city folk who came to drink the awful mineral water would often leave me some coins, and once even $1. I jingled the coins in my pocket. I should have enough to keep me fed for a spell, were I careful. So on I went. As I trudged along, I kept my eye out for the return of the bobcat or some other hungry critter. In the distance, Mount Hood winked her snowy peak at me. She was solid familiar, and I felt safer knowing she was there watching. Dog fir groves, so old that Noah might have sailed past them, right along the road nestled against the foothills of the mountains. In places, farmers had cleared right down to the ground for farms and ranches, and the smell of cows was heavy in the air. Tired as I was, I found myself grinning. The cow scent reminded me of the time I tied Madame Cridley's new bonnet, trimmed with fake roses and a stuffed bird, onto Farmer Gray's cow. Madame Crudley was the boss of the orphan home. Her lips had never known a smile or a kind word, and her gray hair was wrapped tight around her head like an iron helmet. She was stick straight, skinny as a wet weasel, with cold and evil snake blood in her veins, and everyone was plumb afraid of her, especially Mr. Crudley, who mostly holed up in his garden shed. I myself was particular to vex her whenever I could, and I saw a lot of the root cellar as a result. She loved that hat, but it suited the cow better, and that's a fact. It was a shame the Gray's billy goat ate it. The hat, not the cow. To continue the journey, stop by the library and grab a copy of When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea by Karen Cushman.